What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Around the VLA. We have a very special episode here for you this evening. We've been receiving a ton of questions about what is the 2022 season gonna look like. We've been very excited about it. We've posted a lot of stuff about it on Instagram and the website and all this stuff. But we've gotten a lot of questions about the format, about the playoffs, about Tier 2, about promotions, about like all sorts of these things. And those are all great questions. So, what we decided to do is have a show where we jump on and we can talk about a ton of things that we want to make very, very clear leading up into the season, then answer any of your questions. So, if you're watching live on YouTube right now, hop in the chat. I'm looking at it. I'll be able to answer any questions throughout the show. Boys, thanks for joining me. We got Vince Zanzuki, top right from Phoenix. We got Jordan Smith, I don't know what's your title, Supreme Overlord of the Chicago Swede Tier 2 squad.
President and captain, thank you.
There you go. Yeah, close enough. So Jordan and the boys will be making their debut, playing in the Central Tier 1 regular season event in January, which we're very excited about. Vince in the newly formed Western Division will be popping off in the Western Cup at the end of January and then in Phoenix in mid-February. So a lot of cool volleyball going on. We got Indocan in the chat, one of our Tier 2 squads from north of the border in Toronto. What's up, boys? Thanks for watching the show. So yeah, you guys want to just jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Let's jump right into it. So Vince, I'll let you take the lead on this one, just kind of outlining how Tier 1 is going to work for the 2022 season. You've seen some promotions. We've announced some of those.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you can see the graphic that we have in front of you here. And we can just start right from the top with the East Division. The East Division is going to be starting their season in February. Up in Uncasville. Is that how we pronounce that?
Yeah.
Uncasville. It's Mohegan Sun. Big AAU event up there. And Team LVC, Boston Bounce, brand new from the promoted from Tier 2 this year. And then there's another team that is working for their final product will be created soon, and they will be announced in the next few weeks. But basically, they round out the East Division for Tier 1 this year, and we're looking for some exciting volleyball. I mean, they're three solid teams and very tenured teams. So we're excited to see what they have to offer up there.
Yeah, we already got a little glimpse of the LVC versus Boston Bounce like budding rivalry last year when we were in Buffalo. There were some very good matches between those two teams, so getting them to see them go at it several times throughout the year is going to be sweet. The Central Division is a unique one because it's only got two teams. Only 8 teams in Tier 1 this year, so only 2 teams in the Central, which is why Jordan and the Swede boys are hopping into their first regular season event. Their second regular season event will have another Tier 2 squad that participates, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the reigning champs, the Chicago Icemen, and then the New England Patriots of the VLA, as I kind of like to refer to them, Team Pineapple Volleyball squad. That is the Central, and those two teams go back years and years battling against one another. So you'll see them the very first event of the season, and then the West is Vince's home territory. So I'll let him take that one.
Yeah, West Division, we've got Phoenix Ascension represent here. Then we got Rising Tide, SoCal Rising Tide, and San Francisco Sport Connects. Rising Tide and Sport, they eliminated us last year to go to the championship. So
that match was nuts, by the way.
Yeah, that was one of the more exciting matches I felt that week or that weekend out in Orlando. We battled with those guys, and they finally pulled it out. I think it was 16-14 in the third or fifth set, and I mean we're hoping that we can try to build on that rivalry and have that some pretty solid competition. Also, San Francisco Sport Connects. All three of us have actually seen each other already. Sport Connects had to play us and beat us 3-0 to play against Rising Tide in the semifinals of the VLA Cup, which Rising Tide won that match. And so all three of us already pretty familiar with each other. We've already had a little bit of experience playing each other, and we kick off our season with the VLA West Division Cup in January 29th and 30th.
Yeah, and Sport Connects has had a pretty good preseason. They've played a bunch of scrimmages with Stanford, with Menlo, with like some other like NCAA and various programs up in the Bay Area. So we're excited about having them. So Vince just kind of outlined it, but we might as well just jump right into the schedule. So the schedule for Tier 1. So we'll get to the format in just a second, but each division, each Tier 1 division will play 2 regular season events. It'll be a pretty classic format for anybody who's followed the VLA for a while. We'll have 3 teams per event, 6 matches, and each team will play each other twice. And that'll be kind of how we run those. So that first one right there, dead center, Central Division, Swede, Pineapple, Icemen in Fort Wayne. Then the calendar gets pretty scattered from there. It gets to be pretty packed. There's a ton of volleyball. Vince mentioned the East in Connecticut in February, the West in Phoenix the week after that. Then the Central goes down to Louisville for the JVA World Challenge, which is an awesome event. The East will be in Boston, and then the West will be in Long Beach for another JV event, like over Memorial Day weekend. So there's a lot that goes on between now and then, but there's going to be some. We'll know a lot about the teams that we're looking at by the time we get to those second events, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, no, it's a very full and it's especially when you add in the cups. I mean, just our regular season to begin with. I mean, six events. We're really up in the amount of volleyball that we're playing in this this first true season, because last season, which was tampered with by COVID. I mean, Rising Tide had to miss the first event. We had to have a Tier 2 team step in there with Irvine Extreme. And then it'd been kind of something that we were just really piecing things together to try to make sure that we were consistently playing volleyball just to scrape out a season. Now, hopefully nothing happens with COVID and we have no issues that way, but it looks to be a pretty solid and thorough season, and we're really excited to get it underway.
Sweet. Yeah. So before we dive into the kind of format of how Tier 1 works and leading towards the playoffs, I want to get Jordan in here because playing against Team Pineapple and the Icemen might sound intimidating in that first regular season event. But Jordan, you guys have done that like time and time again over the last several years. What are your battles usually like with those two teams?
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, Rob, it's the Chicago volleyball community. You play a lot of the same people, so we're one of the few fortunate teams because we've been playing these two teams for legitimately 4 or 5 years. So Pineapple is one team that we've always had amazing battles with. We have taken down Pineapple before, so it's not like something we've never done before. So that definitely gives us the confidence going against a team like that.
The match that you guys played at VLA Cup was absolutely insane.
That was a really fun. That was a fun match and a great, really tone setter for the tournament for us because coming into these tournaments, they are a little intimidating with all these big teams, and we're typically an undersized team. So that really got our confidence going for that tournament. But I'll be honest about the Icemen. The Icemen, they've kind of had our number. That's a team we've always struggled with matchup-wise. So I think some of the changes we made to our roster this year could really help us. So, like one of the big ones being our second setter we've added. Jake Romano, he's played with Pineapple in the past, and he's a bigger setter than myself. So when we're going against some of these bigger outsides that might not be a good matchup for, we got some more versatility now.
Yeah, and we featured you guys on the YouTube channel this past week, Swede versus Iceman scrimmage, which you, Jordan, weren't at, but your team looked really good. That was a fun little battle. Go check that out on the YouTube channel. Swede was able to take a set from the Icemen, and it's not just you, Jordan, that's had troubles with the Icemen matchup because they are technically the 2-time defending champions. It takes quite the performance to take a match off of that team. We've seen them really beat just about everyone. So
yeah, they're a tough team for sure. But we also added one of their middles that play with them at the VLA championships, Big Mike. One of their big middles that is coming over to our team this year. So that gives us some more size and experience. So we're excited for the MLK event. We're going to be rolling in there deep. Pretty much, actually, our full squad's rolling in there. So we're excited to see if we can pull some upsets.
Yeah, I'm expecting some pretty full squads from all 3 of those teams at that event. Like, there's really no reason why not. Home game for Pineapple and like a quick drive for you in Chicago, and I'll be there. I'm really looking forward to that one. So, Vince, let's jump into the meat of this thing. How the Tier 1 season will work, both including those regular season events like these ones that we just talked about, where the teams will play a total of 8 matches, 4 per event. But then you also include the Cup Series, and every match that a Tier 1 team plays counts for their ranking points for the season. And so there's no guarantee that every team will play the same number of matches, because the way that the Cup tournaments can go is so unpredictable, and it all depends on who wins and who loses, and how that all shakes out. But of the 8 teams in Tier 1, 6 will qualify for the Tier 1 championship tournament at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's correct. Initially, we intended it to be 4 teams, with 3 division winners and then a 1 at-large, 2 second place team. However, with all the moving parts and how it's kind of playing out, the divisions won't necessarily see each other unless they are playing each other at VLA Cup. All the teams will be playing their 2 division cups, and then division events, and then their division cup. And then from there, we will come together for the VLA Cup, which is the granddaddy. It's set for 20 teams this year, up from 11, and that's really the only place that we will run into other divisions. So to really make sense and to really give everyone a fair shot, it only makes sense that we do have it to where the 3 highest ranked teams after the division winners will get a berth. And as it says, the VLA Cup winner, if it is not a division winner, will get an automatic playoff berth as well.
Right. So yeah, like let's say the Icemen were to win the VLA Cup, but Team Pineapple wins the Central Division. Both of them would automatically go to VLA Championships. Yeah, that tournament will be really fun. Like out of the 8 teams, it makes sense to have not everybody make the playoffs, because you've got to have a reason to play the regular season, to have something to play for. But then Vince is exactly right. Once we get those top 6 teams down to the championships event, wherever and whenever it ends up being, very late in the season, we'll have a cool format where we'll get a lot more than like just 1 bracket's worth of matches out of that, so that we can actually get some real crossover between the divisions. Because Vince is right. What a Tier 1 team schedule looks like on the year is 2 regular season events within their division, 1 division cup where they'll see all the Tier 2 teams from all over the country that want to come, but not the other Tier 1 teams from the other divisions, and then the VLA Cup. So that's the only place where they're likely to see any of the other Tier 1 teams from the other divisions. And then just to make sure we shout this out, the standard FIVB ranking point system will be used for every match for Tier 1 teams. So 3 points if you win in 3 or 4, 2 points if you win in 5, and 1 point if you lose in 5. That's become really the standard across all of volleyball throughout the world. So that is what we're going to use for every Tier 1 match. That's any more on that, or did we pretty much cover it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much covered from there. I mean, it like you said, it's something that it's been debated amongst the VLA board and discussed, and we felt making a little bit more of an event than just a straight double elimination tournament, or even just a straight semifinal to final event. We want to provide as much volleyball as possible. We like the storylines behind creating a solid event, and we feel like the championship shouldn't be any different. We feel like the VLA Cup is such a extravagant event. I mean, it's this year it will be bigger than any USAV Open Nationals has ever been, at 20 teams, and we don't want the championships to be okay, the VLA Cup was huge, and then okay, now here's a couple matches for the championship. We really want to make that be something that is just obviously just as big, because it is the championship of the Tier 1. So we definitely want to extend it a little bit more, and bring as much as we can to the table there.
Yeah, so we'll get into the details of that championships event when we get down the line. But all you need to know right now is that 6 teams qualify out of the 8 Tier 1 teams. If you win your division, you get in automatically. The remaining 5 will take the top 3 and send them to the championships tournament. And yeah, if you happen to win the VLA Cup but not win your division, you get an automatic berth. But let's be serious. If you're a good enough team to win the VLA Cup, you're probably a good enough team to be winning your division anyway. So we wanted to make sure we included that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, point out a couple questions we got here. What position do I play? I play wherever the team
Vince
needs
is
me.
a utility guy.
Wherever coach puts me in, I usually play. Coach Moon, he'll just be like, "Hey, go do something," and I'll be like, "Okay, you're gonna bring him a cup of water or something," But then sometimes he puts me in the game. And preseason power rankings, I like that.
That's a good idea.
We might have to put something together very soon. Um, and yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think maybe Rob, we might have to work with that. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's a show episode for sure. So catch us on that, like before the first regular season event. I really like that idea a lot. As we start to figure out who's on each roster, we will be able to make some hopefully educated guesses about power rankings.
That's very true. Rosters will start to be submitted January 1st. So we're still trying to pull certain players. I know there's some tug of war over a few players. Even between tier 1 and tier 2 teams. It's been going back and forth, and it's actually been as fun as you would expect a free agency season. It's actually been kind of exciting because I mean, obviously, the public wouldn't see what the rosters look like, but from our aspect, I mean, we'll check on there every now and then. We have a running Google Doc, and all of a sudden, so and so's on this team,
There's
so and
some
so's on
drama
this
in the
team.
Google Doc. It's fun.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I gotta call Hosley. I gotta call, it's funny seeing some of these guys pop up on different teams, and yeah, and I'm hoping that everyone, because there is some key roster changes. I don't think we're quite at liberty to announce because the official rosters aren't due yet. But there's some key roster changes out there that I'm hoping that everyone in the league is taking everything in good spirit. I don't think anyone's trying to be manipulative or deceptive or anything like that. I know everyone's just trying to put the best teams possible together for the league and for themselves. But yeah, it's been kind of exciting to see some guys pop up on rosters that really was unexpected this year. So
Totally.
it's yeah. So hopefully a lot of people have followed it enough to where next year when they see certain guys suiting up in different uniforms, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like I didn't expect that," And so it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll incorporate that into the show we do at the Power Rankings. Just talk about all the free agent moves that went on in the offseason as some teams shuffled around a little bit, and we'll talk about some of the roster regulations for the teams later on in this show. But we want to spotlight the VLA Cup Series because we've already alluded to it a lot. Vince outlined how ridiculous the full VLA Cup is going to be. It'll again be at Lloyd Ball's place in Indiana in mid-May. That will be absolutely ridiculous. 20 teams on 3 courts over 3 days there, and some more ridiculous pieces of news that we will announce closer to that event. But that's going to be unbelievable. That was, I think, clearly the best tournament that we ran last year, and this year it's going to be even better. So we're looking forward to that. But the division cups are a new thing that we're doing this year, where the tier 1 teams have to make an appearance at their division cup, but outside of that, it's literally an open registration tournament. So any tier 2 team from anywhere, it doesn't have to be from that geographic region or whatever. Anybody at all can sign up for any of these 4 tournaments. And there are a couple of teams that are going to all 4. Jordan, are you guys still going to California, or are you just going to go with the remaining 3? Because you guys were looking at the packed schedule for a while there.
Yeah, originally we were planning to go to all the division cups, but then when we got picked up for the MLK event, it's just kind of a quick turnaround. So we're going to take off the California Division Cup, but we'll be at the Chicago, Buffalo, and of course the VLA Cup, and then hopefully the Tier 2 championships at the end as well. So we did take that into account.
Right. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, those tournaments will be absolutely insane. Like, so the first one in Southern California, like the Irvine area at the very end of January, the second one in Chicago in early March, and then the last one in Buffalo, where we've held awesome events in the past. That one will be in like early April. So all those will have kind of a similar format and a similar feel to the VLA Cup, but a slightly more tier 2 dominated field, which will be really fun to see. Like, get all those previewed matchups and kind of spark some new rivalries before we probably see more of the same at the VLA Cup with all the tier 1 teams in the mix. So this schedule is going to be absolutely awesome, and I'm so excited for all these tournaments. Just like as much fun as the VLA Cup was, I love that we're doing something similar just in 3 additional places. It's going to be so cool.
And I think we're going to see some upsets.
100%.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to see a lot of teams. The fact is there's just great tier 2 teams out there, and it's going to be exciting to see a lot of these rivalries and whatnot, blossom. And that was when creating the format that we did. I mean, last year's VLA Cup was such a success that we. There was a lot of discussions where it was like, we got to do this more often. As simple as that. It's like, that was fun. That was great. Let's do that again. Well, okay, once a year? No, 4 times. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong, but every team at the VLA Cup last year lost a match and won a match, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah, there were no winless teams, no undefeated teams, and Ruckus, a tier 2 team, ended up winning the whole tournament. So, like, what more could you ask for? That's exactly what, to Vince's point, why we were like, yeah, this is such a great format. Let's do it more times. Just
exactly, and that's something that the VLA has always been very aware of. I mean, even though the initial 5 teams created the league, we knew we've always been okay. So how do we expand from here? And that was the thing. It's like, okay, so I mean, we all know somebody. There's always somebody out there that's like, okay, this guy can get a team, or this club has a team, or there's those types of things. But it was more of a, okay, well, let's get them to compete. Like, let's get them out there to play. And so I mean, so we created what we are right now is trying to give opportunities to these teams that, for one, just they want to play, and some of them do want to be tier 1. Some of them just like to play great volleyball, and if you look at the VLA Cup last year, I mean, 2 of the division or 2 of the tier 2 teams were in the semifinals, Sport Connects and SoCal Ruckus. And so when that combination of teams, it's like it just makes sense. We're just trying to create opportunities for teams to compete, and that's obviously what we got here.
Yeah, that's such a great point, is that the tier 2 model is as inclusive as it can possibly be. It's literally for everyone. You can go on the website right now and sign up for all 4 of these tournaments if you want to. But the tier 2 model is so great because if you want to just come and play great tournaments and play great competition, perfect. But if you want to become a tier 1 team, that's the path. That's what you got to do. There's a process by which you can get enough points to get promoted to tier 1, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But that's kind of the beauty of tier 2, is that we have so many opportunities now with these 4 big tournaments all over the country that literally anybody can sign up for. The spread is wide. You can come just to like have a great time and play a great tournament against good teams, or you can come with your A game and try to beat everybody there and try to get as many points as you can to get promoted. And that is exactly the point of the tier 2, tier 1 model. Because as much as we want to expand into teams that we know are really, really good and take it really seriously. And that's exactly why we have the sort of promotion criteria that we have. And is that a good segue into hopping into that? Or do we want to talk about the population of tier 2 first?
What's our next slide? Do we have that next? Do we have the teams? All right. So this is actually
look at this. Look at how many there are. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're running at, I think, 17 tier 2 teams at the moment competing in the VLA tier 2, and I mean, this is spectacular. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better turnout. And the thing is that I mean, pretty much all of these teams we know. Right. It's not like these teams are coming out of the woodwork and we're just going, hey, what is this? These are good teams that just want to play good volleyball, and like we talked about, and we can go through some of the division teams and stuff, and we know a good majority of their intentions, especially based off of who is registered for what. But a lot of these teams are fighting for those that tier 1 spot. And it's not that there's just one spot available. The tier 2 model is set up to where any team can earn it. And we want it to be to where a team can prove, okay, not only can we travel because there's so much travel involved. I mean, we're traveling, tier one's traveling 6, 7 times this year. I mean, it's an extensive season, and not only do teams have to continue to travel, but they also have to compete at these tournaments.
Right.
So it's one thing to send a team, and yeah, okay, you can go across the country. If you got to send your B group, then maybe it's not really worth it. But at the same time, we want these teams to be able to travel and and compete competitively, and this is the way that they can prove that.
That's exactly
and so
right.
so I mean, we're right now. I mean, you look at just from the top, and I'll give River City Flow their introduction because obviously they were LVC2 last year at the VLA Cup, and they're rebranded to River City Flow out of Richmond, Virginia. Sam Albus and James Hosley, those guys leading the charge on that one, and I know them really well. They went ahead and put a 3-0 slacking on my Ascension guys first round of the playoffs or first round of VLA Cup. So I mean, right there, a great team. New York Pride, another great team. Shout out to Terrence Crossan, and and another team that I hate to say it, but also beat Ascension in 5. I mean, we grinded in that as a consolation match, but they're another team that clearly can compete at the tier 1 level, and they're playing every single tournament this year. So I would expect them to cover some ground this year with the opportunity to definitely qualify.
Right.
But
let me hop in and introduce a couple more of these teams. Yeah, just to make it super clear, this River City Flow squad is a rebrand of the LVC2 or Legion Black team from last year's VLA Cup and from previous adult nationals. You may have seen, like, typically, like Chris Hosley's team LVC would always play open at USAVs, and then James Hosley would run a Legion Black team that would play in AA. That team has been together for years and years and years. Most of them Virginia guys. They are rebranded as the River City Flow, and that's who you're looking at there. So their points that they earned as LVC2 last year will carry over to River City Flow, and we'll get to that in a second. They talked about New York Pride. Definitely want to shout out Indocan. I think they're in the chat right now. They're watching. Suka Singh and the guys from Toronto. I'm so excited to get a team from north of the border down here. That's so cool. Like, Canadian volleyball is sick. If any of you don't follow like that much Canadian volleyball, their best university team right now, Trinity Western, absolutely mops the floor with every single NCAA men's team, and it's not even close. They have so much talent in Canada that it is only right that we get to include them in the VLA as well. Like the NHL has half their teams are Canadian. There's no reason why we can't have as many Canadian teams as we want as well. So stoked to have those guys down from Toronto. The Central, we got Jordan, of course, hopping in the regular season event with Tier 1 in January. We also got Milwaukee Dive, which is a new one that Chandler North and Tyler Wills are popping up out of Milwaukee. The Wisconsin volleyball community is unbelievable. And like Chandler and Tyler are both on that championship winning team of the Icemen last year. So the team that they will put out there will be very, very good. And they will be playing regular season Tier 1 in Louisville in April, along with Iceman and Pineapple. And then looking at the West, I mean, you got SoCal Ruckus. They won the VLA Cup last year. What more needs to be said about them? They're absolutely stacked. Team Imiola, a Hawaiian team, under kind of the same management as Ruckus. So their roster, Ruckus's roster was enormous last year. Now they'll have 2 teams worth of those kind of similar guys, and representing Hawaii is so cool because we know how great that volleyball culture is. Seattle Riptides, I believe, are in the chat right now. Shout outs to you guys. I know Vince was a big part in getting you guys involved. The tall ones from NorCal, Coach Donnie's guys, have a huge following on social media. We're excited to have them. And let's see, Madison Verno from Wisconsin, 630 Slunkers, a good junior club, 630 out of the Chicago Burbs, is sponsoring a VLA Tier 2 team. So, dude, we're just everywhere. There are so many of these incredible teams popping out that we almost exclusively know all of them, and we know what to expect out of them, and we all know they're going to be really, really good. So I'm really excited to see how they stack up against the rest of like one another and see who can knock off a couple Tier 1 teams at the various division cups.
Yeah, no, I mean there's just so much talent in the United States as far as adult volleyball, and it's not it hasn't been organized well enough yet to get that into You know, I mean, right now 8 tier 1 teams. You know, I mean, there's way too much talent in the United States just to say, okay, we can only have 8 teams.
Totally.
So obviously now we just decided, hey, let's just bump it up to 25, and you know, let's play some volleyball. You know, and so this is a huge thing, and you know, there, for example, West Coast Brigade, you know, just got affiliated with us a couple days ago, and you know, is intending to play a majority of the events. And it's just, okay, here's another team that, you know, they sent me a couple of their roster guys and a couple of graduates from Stanford, and I mean, they're, you know, they could be a pretty solid team, very unknown, but obviously, you know, it's a place to start. And so that's what's exciting about it, is though you got your Team Pineapple, which has been around for about 12 years now. Back in the PVL days, Ascension with Sizzle, Chicago Iceman, obviously, Team LVC, all of us have been around for such a long time. And now some of these other teams are really starting to make their mark as well. Ruckus has been around for the past couple of years. Chicago Swede, obviously, has been around for about 5-6 years. And so now some of these other teams get the opportunity to create their own way, and we're the platform that we're hoping that they can go and do something and create that reputation for themselves, and create their own brand. And we're excited to see some of these new teams pop up. Obviously, Milwaukee Dive with Chandler North, who's someone that's really close to the VLA. Madison Inferno as well. They have an amazing facility up there in Madison, Wisconsin. Obviously, Madison, Wisconsin's an amazing volleyball community because of what just happened a week ago.
Exactly right.
You know, and so just to have representation in a place like that is huge for our league. And so we're extremely excited about the turnout of the tier 2. We're extremely excited about the teams that are just wanting to play for one, but then also that are buying into what we're trying to do with the VLA. So it's extremely exciting. Also, you know, we forgot to mention Team ECV, which is you know, Todd J. That's you know, one of the most important members of the VLA as far as his photography work, and also you know, just an all-around great guy. Him and his brother are going to be you know, building that team out of Cleveland, Ohio. And so yeah, I mean, this just more and more volleyball that we're reaching the entire country.
Yeah, and before we move on from this, the important note on the top of the screen there, as of 12/23, as of today, this is what we've got. That doesn't mean that we are capping it at this number right now. Registration for these tournaments, until we close out all the cup tournaments, these 4 tournaments right here, until we post, or until the website says that all those tournaments are capped, you can still sign up for them as of right now. If you have a tier 2 team that you haven't put in yet and you want to play one or several of these tournaments, go to the website right now, because I know there are still some spots available, but there probably won't be for long. Vince, what are the numbers looking like right now? Like, do you know which ones happen to have a couple spots open?
Yeah, so the West Division Cup, I believe, has maybe 2 spots left available. Central Division has about 4. East Division has 6, and the VLA Cup, I think, only may have 1 spot left. We just recently, based off of the formatting and how we're going to do the VLA Cup, we went from 16 teams to 20 teams. We had 3 on a waiting list already. So I think that there's 1 spot left to get to that 20, but I'm pretty sure that will get filled up relatively quick. So
yeah,
yeah. So if you know, hopefully one of those teams that, you know, starting to look at this going, hey, I might be interested. If that's the one you want to play, that's a great tournament to play in. So I hope they get in quick, whoever it is.
All right, as we start to break down how the VLA Tier 2 structure works, I want to give Jordan the floor here just to tell us about the kind of the history of this Swede squad, like where you and the guys came from, how you put it together, what you've been playing in the last several years, because yeah, like we've seen Swede at nationals at AA or like whatever since like what, 2014 or 15. It's been years since you guys have been playing together in all these Chicago tournaments. So tell me, give us a quick little Swede history lesson, and then tell us how that kind of changes the way that you run the show now that the VLA Tier 2 is a thing.
Yeah, so I think our first year nationals was 2016 back at Minneapolis. We kind of tried to play in everything though in the Chicago area. As you know, there's a lot of luau's. So we've been playing in all the local Chicago tournaments. Lloyd Ball always hosted an annual tournaments. We've been going to Angola for years to play in his events. Back in the day, we used to go to Doble in Detroit when that was around, and that was always a big one. And then of course nationals every year. So we typically were playing in at least probably I'd say 7 to 10 tournaments a year, and we're playing all the big teams. You know, Iceman, Pineapple, all these events. And we typically started off as I went to Lakeland College in Wisconsin, which is a small D3 school. We were mainly Lakeland guys. And then over the years, we kind of were playing in these tournaments, you know, and as you guys know, the volleyball community is a great community. So you make friends and you play with people in different events, outdoor grass or practices or open gyms. We've really been able to bring more guys on board and really improve our roster. So we're still a make of really a lot of D3 guys. We got some Dominican guys. We have some North Central guys, still some Lakeland guys. Then we splashed in some Division I talent as well from Ball State. So we're kind of if you see us walking to the gym, you might underestimate us a little bit, but by the end of the first match, you'll see where we come from. We rely a lot on our chemistry. We've been playing together for a long time, and that is a big advantage against some of these kind of these all-star teams at these tournaments that they have all the talent in the world, but volleyball is a game of momentum and chemistry. So that's definitely something that we try to use to our advantage.
That is very well said. And if you guys stick around until the end of the show, you will get the first reveal of the new Swede jerseys, which we're going to see in January, which Jordan just showed us before the show, and they're absolutely unbelievable. So stick around and make sure you check those out. Because Vince is talking about building a brand. Like, what an awesome opportunity, what an awesome platform for a tier 2 team like a Swede who's been around forever and who people know and have seen, or like a brand new team that's coming out of nowhere, to have this platform to create a brand. Like Tall Ones, Northern California, great example. Like they typically play in the A division at nationals, but they've totally created a brand and have really capitalized it on social media and on YouTube, and they're absolutely everywhere. So we're excited to have their fans watch our stuff for sure. But that's such a cool part of the tier 2 model, is that we can give everybody a platform to show who they are, like rep their team, like put their team's identity and brand out there to the whole country. And so stick around if you want to see the preview of what exactly Swede is going to look like in the next month or two. That's going to be sweet. So let's jump into the structure of kind of how tier 2 works. It's a little bit similar to tier 1 and how you earn points for every match that you play. As far as the regular season goes, like that will run from like January to June or July or whatever, like with the tier 1 season, there aren't any tier 2 specific events. But Vince can help me out with that in a little bit. But every match a VLA tier 2 team plays in any of the cup tournaments or the tier 2 championships, which will take place at the end of the season, count towards the ranking points as well. And it's a little bit different here than it is in tier 1, because it's adjusted based on the tier of the team that you're playing. So if you're a tier 1 team, you still can't earn any more than 3 points in a given match, regardless of who you're playing. But if you're a tier 2 team and you're able to beat a tier 1 team in 3 or 4 sets, that's worth 4 points. And that's a huge amount of points. And that will happen this year. It very well could happen with Jordan and the guys in the first event of the season. And if they're able to do that, that's 4 points, and that is a huge boost towards eventually getting promoted to tier 1, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's the breakdown right there. If you're a tier 2 team playing against the tier 1, there's actually 4 points that you can possibly win in the match rather than just 3. Anything to add to that, boys?
Yeah, it's one of those things that obviously, there needs to be incentive in those matches, right? I mean, every match is worth something, and especially late in tournaments. I mean, the way our format works, every team will play a minimum of 4 matches in an event, in a cup. And, we obviously don't want human nature when something doesn't matter. I mean, obviously we're all competitive. We all want to win. But, sometimes it's like, let's just, throw our B squad out there for this match, it doesn't really mean anything. Well, every match does. Right. And so it all goes towards the ranking, and we want teams to, I mean, they may get a bad draw. Maybe they do see, they're a 16 seed and they see a 1 seed right off the bat, and they're going to run into a couple of teams that, it's going to be, I mean, let's face it, Iceman has beat most, this, through the years. And if you see Iceman in the first round, there's a good chance that you might lose that match, and so. Okay, so if I have a bad draw and I got to play Iceman and then I got to play this, a top, 4 team, okay, well then all of a sudden it comes to, all right, I got that one consolation match I could still at least, go after and still earn just as many points as I did before. There's nothing meaningless about any of these matches, and especially for our tier 1 teams, we got to win these matches.
That's right.
These could be the difference between us staying home in for the championships or not. And so when we get into some of these, matches against tier 2 teams, there's a lot on the line, and so yeah, so I mean, I think that it just is a format which it gives incentive to the two teams to to beat the one teams, and and vice versa. I mean, there's stuff riding on it, and obviously promotion into tier 1 is a big deal. But then even so, for the tier 1 teams that are already there, we're fighting for playoff spots. So if we can't capitalize on some of these matches that we may get to play, but another team's going to be capitalizing on it. So yeah.
And another thing for the tier 2 teams is it incentivizes playing as much as possible.
That's right.
To get to that promotion. So that's a thing I really like about the structure, because we still have some open spots in these tournaments, and if you want to get to that tier 1 spot, the best way to get there is not only playing well but playing often.
Yep. Yeah. There's a quantity and a quality of the amount that a tier 2 team can play that can both combined really help towards getting promoted faster. And Vince, that's such a good point that Vince made about how every match matters in this format. If you're a tier 1 team, you have to earn your spot in that top 6, either win a division or get one of those at-large spots to make the playoffs. If you're a tier 2 team, you got to earn that top 4 to get to the tier 2 championships, or you got to earn, as many points as you can over the multiple seasons to get promoted to tier 1. But that's a good segue into this. The process of promotion from tier 2 to tier 1 looks kind of like this. If you're right now, the reason why the Central Division qualification criteria are easier is because we only have 2 teams in tier 1 Central Division. We're trying to fill that spot to make everything even. And that's kind of how it'll go as more teams get promoted over the next couple of years. So that's the progressive aspect of the promotions. But if you win 2 cup tournaments, that's either the VLA Cup or a Division Cup or the tier 2 championships, if you make that top 4 and you win that tournament, that counts as a cup win towards promotion. Or you accumulate 50 points worth of matches if you're a Central Division team like Jordan and Sweden, for example. That is the path to getting promoted to Tier 1. So here's how you earn points, by winning matches in these ways. And then the cup system, if you were to win some of those tournaments, all you have to do if you're in the Central Division is win 2 of those tournaments. And one of those can be the Tier 2 championships. So it's kind of, we can put the clock on Jordan and the guys right now on how quick do they want to get promoted? Like, how quick can they either get 50 points or like win tier 2 championships and maybe one other tournament, or win tier 2 2 years in a row? And it can be that simple. But then once the Central team gets promoted and we have 3 teams in each division, then the criteria for the Central Division will jump up and match what the West and East Division is. And same thing after that. If a West team wins 3 cup tournaments or gets 100 points and they get promoted and there become 4 teams in the West Division, then that promotion criteria for that division will get even higher. So the team with, or like the division of tier 1 that has the lowest team number of teams in it will always have the easiest criterion for tier 2 to tier 1 promotion, so that we can keep things balanced in the regions. And right now that happens to be the Central Division, is the way things are laid out. So all you have to do, like Jordan and Swede, for example, if you win the tier 2 championships 2 years in a row, you're in. It's that simple. Or if you can play enough before you're able to do that to win 50 points worth of matches, that's it. So that's kind of how it works. And Jordan's point is really good about both quality and quantity, because if you can play a lot, that certainly helps. But if when you do play, you can beat everybody you play, especially tier 1 teams, that helps even faster.
Yeah, and the other thing too to point out is that the points and cups win carry over season to season.
Right.
And so and it was a discussion that we actually had this morning where it's like, okay, I mean, there's the potential for if things work out a certain way, I mean, we could have two, maybe even three teams that could qualify this year for promotion, or be given the opportunity for promotion. And so I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with this. But again, we want to reward the teams that are competing consistently and having success. But as it carries over from year to year and season to season, we do need to make it a little bit more difficult, obviously. With we don't want it to be where if Swede goes and gets that 50 points, and then Milwaukee Dive is at 45. All right, well, it just resets back to 0. Well, that just doesn't really make sense,
Right.
So let's just extend it, and obviously Milwaukee Dive's right there. They're 5 points away from being that next team. Well, okay, we can't just add everybody. We've already established that we need a little bit of diversity. The league financially can only handle so much. And so, especially at this time, yeah, we would love to have all 25 of these teams right now in tier 1. It'd be amazing, right? But the almighty dollar says otherwise. So, so I mean, to protect the league from overextending too quickly, and running into that issue, we have it this way to where these teams are really earning it themselves. It's not one of those things, like I said, we don't want to be hey, give me a call. Okay, I got my buddy over here. We're going to give him a team. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. It's not a good format. It's not a good method. Who's to say that guy's even interested or in it for the long run?
Right.
We want these teams like Swede that is, tenured. My buddy Chris is pointing out, Riptides, 6th season playing together. It's like, the teams like that are tenured, and we know can travel and can compete. Those are the teams that make the most sense for being a tier 1 team. And if they can't, it's okay. That we still have, tier 2. We're still going to provide as much volleyball as possible between this. Even in the fall, we're going to have tier 2 standalone events where there's going to be tournaments involved where teams can earn some points that way. And so we want to create more than just here's the pro league and this is what we are and we're this is it, right? We want to create the entire country as a community competing under the umbrella of the Volleyball League of America.
That's so well said. So, Jordan, knowing this and knowing that you guys happening to be in the Central Division are on the fast track to be one of the first teams promoted, how does that affect the way that Swede approaches like this season and maybe into next season? Because like 50 points in a year is going to be almost impossible unless you beat like 13 tier 1 teams and get 4 points out of all of them. You can't, or you win like two out of the possible 3 cups you can play in or whatever. It probably won't happen in one season, but knowing that, like what Vince said, it's kind of a race against what other central teams there are, because once a central team gets to 50 or they get to 2 cups, then that's going to increase to either 100 or 3 cups. So how does that affect the way Swede approaches this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely incentivizes being successful early on this season. Because obviously, I don't know who's all on Chandler North's team, but I know that they're going to be a great opponent. So I know that we are going to be racing with them. It's not going to be easy by any means. So that's someone we're going to want to jump on early. And I also don't know, how much these other teams are competing, but 630, another very viable team. So, getting to this 50 points is going to be huge because that, like you said, that ceiling is only going to get higher. So we want to make sure that we're part of this because we also want to get to the tier 1 to start competing in tier 1 events on a more regular basis and continuing to grow our brand. So there's motivations for us to do that from an early stage. And it's an exciting opportunity, but again, it's going to be a dogfight to get there. And we're just gonna have to be consistent.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of storylines involved in that. I mean, you point out we know these teams already. It's not like there are any surprise that, the 630 Slunkers, I mean, we've seen a lot of those guys. Obviously, Chicago, you guys know them personally. The country knows that Chicago is a hotbed for volleyball. And then you throw Milwaukee into the mix. And And it's like that, especially the Central Division race is going to be something that's very interesting and very intriguing this year, because it will most likely be the first division that gets a team that gets promoted. I would be very surprised if one of the teams, I mean, if any team were to do it, I could see Ruckus, with the talent that they have, could potentially, win 3 tournaments this year to get that promotion in the West. But I would be really surprised not to see what Swede, Milwaukee, Slunkers,
Madison
even
as well.
Madison,
Yeah.
all 4 of those teams. VC Nebraska right now hasn't officially, even though they do have points in the league, hasn't officially registered for any of the events yet. We're hoping that they will possibly make the Chicago event, and even potentially maybe the Cup. But another really good team, as we saw last summer, that could compete in the Tier 1 too. So yeah, it's going to be a great race right there to see which of these teams comes out on top, for particularly the Central Division, because they are very much looking for that third team to balance out the league at this point.
Yeah, and it should make for some exciting end of the year matches. When we get later on to these, April at the Buffalo, we're in Buffalo, or the VLA Cup. We're gonna have a good idea of where everyone stands looking at next year. So it's gonna be important.
And towards Tier 2 championships again. Out of all these teams, like however many there are, 17 of them right now. However many choose to actually actively play some of these cup events. The top 4 will get to the Tier 2 championships. That'll be later on in the summer. Somebody was asking about summer tournaments. Yeah, there will be a Tier 2 and Tier 1. Both will have their own championship tournament. They'll be in the summer. We don't exactly know dates and places yet, but we'll post those. But when it comes to the Tier 2 finals, the fact that winning that Tier 2 championships tournament counts as a cup win is going to be absolutely massive, because that will have so much on the line. Because if you think about it, if you're a Central team, you need to either win 2 cups or get 50 points. Winning that Tier 2 championships might as well be worth 25 points if you're able to go into that tournament and win it. So that there'll be so much on the line in that, and I just cannot wait to be there and watch those matches. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, it's definitely gearing up to be an exciting season. And and the funny thing about it is, I mean, the promotion of these teams, like I said, storylines. It's really exciting. We're gonna get to know all of these teams very, very well. And that's one of the things. Like there is a clear separation between Tier 1 and Tier 2 as far as the tenure of the teams. And the Tier 1 teams have obviously proved themselves throughout the years, right? However, it's going to be exciting because the Tier 2 teams are going to get a lot of exposure as well. It's not going to be one of those things where the NBA the NBA is the NBA, and then there's the G League, and it's 2 completely separate things. I mean, obviously, there's a huge level barrier there. We don't have that in the VLA. We clearly see that the Tier 2 can compete with the Tier 1 teams. It's just they just got to kind of prove themselves on that overall national scale of being able to travel, being able to compete, not in their hometown. It's always easy to field a fantastic team when you're when you're at home, and you got your full 18 guy roster, and you can pick and choose which guys you want to go. It's when you have to go to a Buffalo, or you have to go in Swedes, or Swede would have been going to Seal Beach, but they're not making it anymore. But again, them traveling to Seal Beach would have to field a quality team. Otherwise, if they go and they go 0-4, well, I mean, it wasn't really worth it for them. They got to go and produce. So it's going to be exciting to see the storylines that are created through this, and it's going to be very exciting to see who that first Central Division winner is. And I definitely wish Jordan the best of luck in that. You're one of the staple teams in the for what we're doing here, and without that kind of motivation and the participation of these types of teams, is Swede and River City Flow, New York Pride, obviously getting it all started. I mean, I don't think that a lot of other teams really buy into this system. and we'll definitely gauge the success of it as we go.
Yeah, one question in the chat asking that Tier 2 championships is only 4 teams. Could that change based on how much interest there is? I guess I don't technically know the answer to that because we don't have a date, place, or number of courts limit of the tournament. But I actually kind of like keeping it at just 4, especially since there's really only 4 different chances for Tier 2 teams to play, and very few will actually go to all 4 of them. I think there'll be a couple, but not all that many. So I kind of like keeping it at 4 teams.
Most likely, it will still stay only 4 teams. We don't see it advancing or growing. One of the big reasons why is because we're intending that to be similar to how we did the Kickoff Classic in the inaugural VLA tournament, where we do give the Tier 2 teams that earn that championship bid the opportunity to play a lot of volleyball.
Yeah, like the whole pool play thing. Yeah,
the pool play, then the final, tournament play and whatnot. We're trying to give them each a minimum of 5 matches, so it's a little bit more, really, so that they have the opportunity to earn something more than just just another cup tournament. We want it to be something that's really geared towards, hey, let's highlight these Tier 2 teams that are working very hard for to try to get that promotion, and also to all that they're doing for our league. I mean, it's not like this goes unnoticed. I mean, these guys, everyone is just as active as the Tier 1 teams as far as promoting the VLA. We can't appreciate it's immeasurable how much they are helping our league grow, right. And it's their league too. It's not like it's like, okay, this is us and then this is them. We're all in this together, and we're all building something here. And we definitely couldn't do it without the motivation of these teams.
One more thing I want to make clear about how the points and cup wins carry over season to season, which they do. So all the teams that are in Tier 2 right now that played in last year's VLA Cup or in a handful of those regular season events where we had Tier 2 teams, the points, whatever points they may have earned, do carry over. So Swede had a couple wins at Loy's place last year. Those points carry over. New York Pride, Irvine Extreme, VC Nebraska, when they hosted that event in Lincoln, they got a couple points. All those points carry over. However, if you get to a point where you're either about to get promoted or you are asked by the league to be promoted or like offered promotion and you decline, your points and your cup wins reset. So, which is why you might be wondering why SoCal Ruckus is not a Tier 1 team right now. They actually were offered that by the board this offseason, but their club decided that it was in their best interest for the moment to stay as a Tier 2 team. So even though they won the VLA Cup last year, that is reset because they were offered Tier 1 promotion and they chose not to do it at this time. And they are going to get a chance to climb back up on top of that mountain again because we know how good that team is. But I know we've gotten some questions about that before, and that's the case. If you are offered promotion and you choose not to take it up at that time, then your points reset.
Yeah, it's very good that you pointed that out because, that's obviously Ruckus having the season that they had last year. Decided that they weren't up for playing tier 1, and so it's one of those things where obviously carrying over to the to the next year. I mean, they I don't know if there's a phrase for it, stacking points or something like that. I don't really know, but basically it's one of those things where it's like, well, where they stood at the end of last year, they should have been promoted to. I mean, they had the opportunity to accept promotion into the Tier 1. They chose not to, and so basically, if that happens with any other teams. It's clear that, okay, well, you're not ready for the demands of the Tier 1 or the obligations of Tier 1, which is okay.
It's totally okay.
Yeah, we don't want to discourage anyone from just coming out and competing, and so we basically, but at the same time, if they carried over all the points that they had to earn that where they were last year, then when it comes to the playing in the Tier 2 championships, they almost have an automatic bid, and so we can't exactly continue to have a team just collect points so that they can play in the Tier 2 championship, but without they kind of have to earn that as well. So
right. All right. Question in the chat from, I think, the Riptides guy. How does a Tier 2 team qualify for Tier 2 championships from only one cup event? Not easily. Let me tell you, dude. That's kind of the point, is that we want if you're gonna get to the Tier 2 championships, you're gonna have to play a lot of volleyball. And like Vince said, it's not necessarily going to be easy. Traveling is not easy. Beating good teams at all those cup events is not easy. If you can only make one tournament, then there's the chances of getting to the Tier 2 championships this season off of one cup tournament are extremely slim. However, there's a thing that I didn't put on the graphic that I wish I had, and the tiebreaker for Tier 2 teams. We talked about the number of points that they have from all this, from the like beating Tier 1 teams or whatever. You get points from the matches that you can win. The tiebreaker above that is how many cups you've won. So if you're a Tier 2 team and you go to one cup tournament, but you win that cup tournament, you immediately have a leg up on every other Tier 2 team that has not yet won a cup tournament. So it's very important to note that is the first tiebreaker amongst Tier 2 teams is cup tournaments won. After that, it is points.
Yeah, so if you win a cup, I mean, and so another team go and say, I mean, you win that cup, obviously you had to probably go 5-1 at worst. So you're looking pretty good. You're looking pretty good at that point as far as the standings go. You maybe have like 15 points or something like that, but then another team that just plays in 3 or 4 tournaments goes and they go maybe 2-2 for the rest of the season, getting to 16 points or so. Point wise, they'll have more than you because they have played more. And that is the point, that we're trying to look for the teams that can travel and can play consistently. We feel that once teams earn their way into tier 1, they will have a little bit easier time attracting top level talent and those types of things. But what really is the proving point is for teams to be able to compete consistently and travel consistently. Because the worst thing that could possibly happen to a tier 1 event is a team can't show up.
Right.
And we're very, very, very confident that none of the teams in our tier 1 will miss a tournament. Obviously, COVID being the one exception that we have, which kept a rising tide out of Phoenix last year. But that is the one exception. Obviously, if you can't travel, you can't make it literally because the government don't allow you to. However, we're looking for teams that can consistently travel and can consistently play. And so it benefits us more because we've actually had the question. And I don't know if I should say his name, but he actually brought it up to us. Former one of Loy's old teammates won a gold medal or whatever they did together. He brought it up and he's like, hey, I could field the team, and he told us the guys, and a couple of them were really solid, but it's like, okay, but we can't just hand you a team. That all these other teams are working for it. We can't just say, okay, show up to a tournament and win this tournament and then you're in. And that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. We want consistency in the league. We want consistent teams. We don't want it to be an influx of, okay, this team's here for 1 year and then all of a sudden they bounce. We want teams that are going to be here for the next 100 years. We're trying to build something great. And the NBA and the NFL and all these teams didn't become what they were because of a bunch of influxes of teams. They became the way they are because of consistency. And so that's what we're trying to promote and what we want.
Fantastic point. So I hope that answered all the questions in the chat. The last thing we want to get to before we get to Jordan's jersey reveal, which I'm very excited about, is a couple wrinkles about how the rosters are going to work. Because the last, Kickoff Classic, the very first year in the middle of COVID, it was one tournament. People were just grabbing players from wherever they could just to field the team for that tournament. Last year, it was also pretty scattered. I mean, COVID was weird. There was a lot of issues with getting people places and guys coming back from overseas. But now, as Tier 1 has grown to 8 teams, as Tier 2 has exploded in popularity and population, we would like our rosters to be a little bit more organized, let's say. We don't want it to be as like as a straight up free for all and for literally every tournament as it may have been in the last couple of years. So there's a couple things we want to point out about that. First of all, tier 1 rosters, at least 15 guys on your roster. That is the limit for that, because some guys can't make some events. Exactly like Vince said, the last thing we want is for a tier 1 team to show up at an event with like 7 or 8 guys, have a guy get hurt or have like something weird happen and not really be able to field the team. So that's the reason why there's got to be a minimum of 15 guys at least on your roster, and that they don't have to show up to every event by any means, but they've got to be on the roster. They've got to be there by January 1st. So that's just over a week away. The most you can have is 25. That's a pretty big pool of guys to pull from. But if you really extend much past that, then you might be taking away players from potentially other teams. And there's no way you're going to have playing time opportunities for more than 25 guys. So that would be crazy. So the final roster deadline for tier 1 teams is April 1st. That's before the VLA Cup. That's well before the VLA championships. So any guy that you might even remotely want to suit up for you must be on your roster by April 1st, and there can't be more than 25 guys. So
Vince,
and
to elaborate on those roster limits, I mean, here's one of the things that we ran the risk of when we decided to make it a January to July season, is the end or the later half of the European leagues. And well, obviously we can't go into a season and expect all those guys to like come back or anything. I mean, we encourage them to be over there. And so a handful of our teams are made up of more, obviously players that are here in the States for the initial part of the year. And then we don't want to limit the fact that those guys want to come back and play. I mean, they're obviously the most talented and best players in the world. They're seasoned, they're in shape. They come back and they just add a dynamic to our league. And so we have that final deadline right there to where in the minimum maximum to where, I mean, yeah, it's possible that one of these teams may grab 10 overseas guys to come and dominate from May till July. Most likely that's not going to happen. There's always going to be 2 or 3 guys on each team that come back from playing overseas, and they're very important to our league because we're trying to showcase the best talent in the United States. We're not trying to just oh yeah, if you're not on the team, you're not on the team, that type of thing.
Right.
We want to make exceptions for these guys. We want to give them a place to play, and so that they can begin their careers here playing in the VLA as well, and kind of start to set their legacy. They're guys that we can promote. When you see a guy who's playing, like for example, Jalen Penrose, when a guy like him who's playing overseas, you can compare his efforts and talent in the VLA Cup and in the matches that he plays, and you see, okay, this is where our teams stack up to the teams that he's playing against in Europe. And and if he comes and dominates us, then obviously, okay, well, we're not really quite up to snuff over there. But when he comes, and don't get me wrong, he played a fantastic tournament. But I mean, they didn't make it out of the first round. They got beat by Sport Connects, and it's like, okay, well then you see another opposite, Colin Hackworth, and it's like, okay, that guy's he's here in town, like he's stateside, and that guy, I mean, and
just
it's like
as
obviously
good. He's incredible.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just you have that comparison, and it's amazing to see that we do have the talent here in the United States. But we up the talent a lot more by getting those guys back and giving them the opportunity to still play in our league.
Right. So the guys that are overseas, we love and absolutely need those sorts of players. The star power, the immediate promotability, the influx in talent really makes the league special when they come back. So there are some rules that apply to them though, because we don't want, like, for example, a tier 1 team that might barely scrape their way into like the 6th spot in the playoffs, then completely overload their roster with overseas guys and then go out and win a championship. We don't totally want that. So if you're going to bring an overseas player onto your tier 1 team, this is like the bottom point on the screen there. Anybody that you can bring anybody in and play them at VLA Cup, and because that's in mid-May, just about everybody who's overseas will be back by that point. unless you are playing on the national team or unless you're like playing in the finals of Champions League. Like almost nothing goes that late into mid-May. So by about that time in May, we expect pretty much everyone to be back stateside. They are all fair game to play at VLA Cup. But if you're going to have an overseas guy play at VLA Championships, they've got to play at least one other event before that, and VLA Cup is included in that. So if you want to bring back a bunch of superstars and play them at VLA Cup and VLA Championships, that's totally cool. But we can't have people just stacking their rosters just for championships. However, sometimes there are circumstances when a guy can't make anything but championships. And for that, we have one exception on the roster per team, where if you have a guy who's playing overseas who you know will not be available for any tournament other than the VLA Championships, you can mark him as that player, one per team, by January 1st, like when those rosters lock in a week or so, and he'll be allowed to play in the VLA Championships without having played a tournament before that. One of those exceptions per team and no more. We're not trying to bring in a brand new team full of strictly ringers to come in and win championships. We like we like it when the guys that compete in the first half of the season are then supplemented by a couple of those overseas like superstars, and then you have a team that's blended that goes out and wins championships. That's the model. We don't want like a team just full of ringers going out and winning at the end of the season.
Yeah, and a lot of this has to do with Marcus Nielsen was always one that would come back from Team Pineapple, and I mean, he's he's Swedish, he's not even an American,
right?
And so, but Loy always did a good job of making sure it was well documented that hey, he's coming for this tournament. He's part of Team Pineapple. He's known as such, and so. But the thing is also other things will come up. Not that we shouldn't talk about the importance of dedication and all that stuff, but God forbid wedding season happens in middle of May, and you get one of these guys that just get off the boat from overseas, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I either get married or play VLA Cup. Now I know what I would choose.
Dave Hancock is my example for that. My teammate from Purdue plays for the Icemen, who's unbelievable. He came back from overseas and he had a wedding the weekend of VLA Cup, and that's why I wasn't there. So yeah, that is the point of that. So if you can plan that far ahead, put that guy in your roster now and mark him now.
Talk to your fiance. Make sure she understands the importance of the VLA before anything else. And then maybe buy that ring. But that's so
coming from Vince, who has 3 kids, so he's
3 kids and 10 years of this, and he knows. But there is obviously circumstances. We don't care what the circumstances are. We just there's the rule of that. Now the next thing, obviously, very important, which will come into a big factor, is the tier 2 loan players. And the important thing to acknowledge about that is that basically we know that sometimes, as you see with our 25 player roster maximum for the tier 1, there's sometimes that we need guys that we can have fill our rosters to compete in some of our events. And they may not be a star player of our team. They may be a third, fourth middle, maybe a third right side, something like that. But they are very important for us to compete before some of us get our a superstar player that we may have coming from overseas. But the other thing too is we don't want to tie them up to where it's like they're stuck just playing that role. We want to give them the opportunity also to where if a tier 2 team needs them later in the season or whichever cup event that they're competing in, they're able to pull and draw that guy in. Unfortunately, yes, they will be ineligible for either tier 1 or tier 2 championships. We can't leave it to where it's a free for all, but at the same time we understand that teams need certain players at certain times. And they're obviously more valuable to them when the full roster's there, or the full roster isn't there. And so you will see some players this year that will go from tier 1 to tier 2, and vice versa. There won't be. We'll have to discuss that with some of the team reps to make sure that there are no jumps back and forth. It will be if someone starts on tier 1, they go down to tier 2, they're down in tier 2 now.
Right.
If someone plays in tier 1 and then goes up to tier 2 and then goes up to tier 1, they will go into they will be maintained on tier 1.
Yeah, so we're just leaving an option open for some needed flexibility sometimes, but ideally, if you're a tier 1 team, you should know your roster and you should be able to figure it out for the events that you're going to play. You should have your guys. This is kind of a last chance scenario, and which is why there's the ineligibility piece for either of the championships. It's kind of a last resort thing if you're going to have to field the team for a certain event or whatever. But it's encouraging tier 1 teams, especially, to really have their situations figured out going into the season. And like Jordan, for example, Jordan would be pissed if like one of his guys got brought up to a tier 1 team for 2 events, and then one of his best players couldn't play in the championships. So the tier 2 teams are going to be resistant to any of their guys being taken away, which is the whole point. We want the teams to have continuity. We want the rosters to be set, to be consistent. It makes it easier for the league to market the teams. It makes it consistent for the fans who watch teams from event to event to be seeing the same players. So that's kind of the point. We've got exceptions to allow for different flexibilities here and there, but we want this year more so than previous years to have some pretty substantially increased organization how rosters are set up.
And as far as tier 2 goes, I know there's no slide for it, but the roster requirements for tier 2, are they more lenient? Are there any? What does that look like?
Yeah,
They're much more lenient.
It's very lenient, and the reason why is because, like I said, we've all been in the circumstances where we got to play this event or this event, and a guy drops out, a guy, I mean, and so especially because of those circumstances, it is a little bit more lenient as far as tier 2 teams filling out their rosters. I can't personally imagine that if you, Jordan, brought your main suite guys to Chicago, and then you had to go grab 12 new guys and go play in Buffalo, that you'd have the same success. However, we don't want to discourage you from competing in that, and you being the manager that you are, we encourage you to continue to have teams participate. But we figure that there are going to be times where certain guys become available, and hey, I need to pick up a guy for a tournament. Okay, you're a 2-2 guy, and you're not playing in this one. Hey, come join us. We need a third middle, or and so those types of things we want to be relatively lenient about, because at the end of the day, the tier 2 is still I hate to use the word of a not recreation, but it's more of, it's competitive to the point where you don't need to have those mandates on you. We want teams to be able to show up and play. We want teams to maintain their competitiveness as well. We don't want you to have to go and scrap 7 guys to go play a tournament because you registered and paid. We want you to be able to, hey, we still are competing, and one guy from another tier 2 team or 2 guys from another tier 2 team shouldn't be the difference of you being the best team. Otherwise, if that's the case, you should get that guy on your team full time. So and it's flexibility between the tier 2 rosters, not the tier 1 rosters. I mean, it's not like you can all of a sudden call up I don't know, I was gonna say Lloyd, but he's only so anymore. Man, Faulkner, you can't pull Faulkner and go play in Buffalo, and I guess he's playing that week anyways, but you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like you don't want to pull a guy that is already a superstar from a tier 1 team. I mean, that just isn't practical. But
and it's kind of against the spirit of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, but at the same time, like, you guys are still trying to build your teams too. There's a possibility that a guy from a team that isn't competing in an event may work better for your team. How are you going to know that until you guys play together? And so I mean, we want you guys to be able to kind of come together a little bit and create the better teams that will help you get to that to the tier 1 promotion. So so yeah, there's we want it to be flexible. We want it to be lenient to an extent. We don't want it to be you stealing other players. Obviously, we would prefer that dialogue is happening between you and a team manager, from a guy. But I mean, if it happens, tier 2 isn't tied to anyone. The players aren't tied to anybody. they're able to play with who they choose.
Yeah, basically, once you suit up for a tier 1 team, you're pretty much locked there. And past that, it gets a little more flexible with tier 2, but then the board can handle a couple unique cases case by case. But this is the main thing here, and most of these restrictions apply mostly to tier 1. So, Jordan, I know you will not have a problem fielding teams with any number of guys at any tournament that you guys are going to go to. All right, so we've been going for a while. We've covered a lot of information. To wrap it all up, to summarize it, we've got 10 events on the calendar right now. We've got 6 for regular season events for the divisions. We've got 3 division cups, 3, and then the VLA Cup. That's 10. You can expect more details on 2 more events. That'll be the tier 2 and the tier 1 championships that are getting much closer to the summer. Those are much further down the road. So we're actively working on planning those. But all of the info that we went over on the show will all be on the website at usavla.com. So if you have any more questions about how everything works, hit us up there. I think it's time to check out Jordan's jerseys. I think we've kept the people waiting long.
Yep.
We have both, just one.
You're the boss, dude. You do whatever you want. I'm gonna put you
on
the full screen you.
We'll do one, and then we're gonna pull out the other one in January because we're gonna wear them both. But
I like that. I like that.
Let me just back a little bit here. So here's one of our jerseys for this year.
Oh, that looks great.
Got that fresh VLA logo on it. Got our Liberos jersey right here.
Who helped you decide that white VLA logo on the?
So
any input on that?
So I'm not gonna lie, I had some help from Vince, who said, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't use the colored VLA logo on those ones. Check out the white one."
Yep.
And I put that on there, and they looked very well. So we're gonna be looking fresh here in January when we get out to MLK.
Those are unbelievable.
And tune in January if you want to see our other jerseys.
Oof. Those are so awesome. Yeah, my boy Mikey in the chat talking about uniform karma. Everybody knows that the better you look, the better you play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Dan Sanders said it best.
Well established, well defined. That's why Vince wears purple. Oh yeah, Jordan, those are dope. Well done, well designed. I'm excited to see those on the court in action. So yeah, boys, thank you so much for hopping on the show. We covered a lot. Hopefully, we answered a lot of questions. We're so excited for this season. The model we've got, the schedule we've got, the teams, the players are absolutely incredible. I love the idea of doing like a preseason power rankings. We'll do that and go over some of the player moves in the off season leading up to the first event. But yeah, where's that schedule at again? Boom. Yeah. MLK weekend, January 15th in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Swede, Iceman, Pineapple. That will be the first regular season, legit, real, high caliber VLA action of the year. So a lot to look forward to with that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show. Follow Swede_volleyball on Instagram if you haven't already.
Yep. And also final shout out to Novice. Clothing company is going to be sponsoring the VLA this year as far as our uniforms and apparel, and Stat Together, which will be doing some of the live streaming at the Cups, and also will be our official statistics sponsorship. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. Also, of course,
increasing the stats this year will be a huge addition. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and of course, Mikasa Sports USA. Mikasa, I mean, if you follow the Instagram, you've seen the VLA ball. Jordan, I might send yours sometime soon. Up to you. I tried to send them to Tim. Tim said, "No, don't send them to me. I'm not going to give them to him." No,
brutal. Send them to me. I'll give them to Jordan. Come on.
There you go. But yeah, so the new VLA ball, the V200W, is got the VLA logo smack dab on there, and it's going to be a good looking item this year. And we actually should be selling those to the public here in I think next month or maybe February. So individuals will be able to buy them as well. So
that's right.
Right now, just special exclusive for the teams. But yeah, so look forward to that.
All right, boys. Shout outs to all our sponsors. We got so much great stuff going on with the VLA. Season's going to be incredible. Tune in there in January to watch Jordan and the boys take on Volleyball, an Olympic gold medalist and the reigning champion. So really jumping in the deep end, which I absolutely love. I will be at pretty much every single event of the year. To answer that question in the chat, I think everything except that there's one weekend that there are 2 events going on at once, and I, as one man, can only go to one. So I think I'm going to Buffalo instead of Louisville that one weekend in April, but I will be at everything else. So my voice is going to be over a lot of matches. All right. I think that's a show, boys. Jordan, thanks for joining. Vince, thanks for joining. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year watching, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, enjoy your holiday, guys.
All right, take care.
Peace out.